Everyone keeps asking why the Yankees haven't won a World Series, why their prospects don't seem to explode on the scenes anymore. But the reality is, baseball has changed and the Yankees have not evolved with it. Now, player development is different. The way championship teams are built is different. And overall, baseball is different. So, we're going to break down why the Yankees seem to be stuck in the past while other teams are moving forward.
Downtown goes Frazier.
Welcome back to another episode of Life After the Show. Now, what are we going to talk about on this episode? We're going to talk about why the Yankees seem to be stuck in the past while many other organizations seem to be only evolving as the game moves forward. A lot in baseball has changed. We've got pitch clocks. We've got pitch comms. We have robo umpires now coming into the game. We have people that are tracking spin data on the pitches. I mean, we've got so much, almost an influx of too much data in today's game. But one thing that the Yankees do better than everybody, according to what they said, was player development, sports science data, in the scouting department. So, on this episode, we're going to cover a few of those topics and why I seem to think that the Yankees are a little bit of their own detriment in this field. So, in the docket, I've got plenty of things written down. I've got reasons why the model that they have doesn't work anymore in October. It works in the playoff or in the regular season, but in October, it seems to me that when that rolls around, they've got a team that's built to do one thing in the regular season, which is put up a lot of runs through home runs. And a lot of the at-bats result in strikeouts, a lot of slugging. But with a lot of slugging comes a lot of swing and miss. And, I have had extensive talks with my dad about this in terms of the way that baseball is being built today. And a lot of teams just go for home run or bust. But a lot of the better teams are going for making contact, which leads to the home runs, which ultimately just leads to the one thing that you want, which is putting traffic on the base path. So what we've got written down is that contact hitters beat strikeout or home run lineups. And what I mean by that is that in today's game, guys that make more contact give yourself a chance to put the ball in play and hit a home run. But you can't hit a home run if you're just swinging and missing all the time. I mean, that seems pretty obvious. So let me just break down why I'm saying the things that I'm saying and why I think that it makes sense and why the Yankees might be just a little bit behind in terms of what other teams are doing. So, as you guys know, 2017 or earlier, when Justin Verlander and a lot of those Houston Astros pitchers were there, they started messing around with some spider tack stuff. And they weren't the only ones, but I do think that they were the pioneers of knowing that, hey, you put a substance on your finger, and that substance is going to lead to a little bit of a tick upwards in the numbers that you've got. And so what they found out was that the more spider tack or the better spider tack, and again, spider tack is just a way of saying like really tacky stuff that you put on your fingers. That was just the name that they used. But these guys were putting that on their fingers, raising their spin rate. I even had teammates that thought that, hey, there's potential that the velo that they have is rising because of this stuff on their finger. Better grip, might throw it harder. I don't know. But with all of that to be said, they looked at the data and they found that, hey, a little bit of stuff on your fingers will lead to some really, really good results. So, what does that do for hitters? That makes a hitter who has seen the same pitch his entire life step into the box and see, wow, this is different. And so I remember even being in the batter's box around 2020 because 2020 was a lot different, right? There was no fans in the stands. So you could actually hear when these guys are throwing the ball, you could hear like a little and that was the finger and the ball being attached to one another and whenever it would let go. So I remember a few times I'm looking at the umpire and I'm like, you gonna do anything about this, bro? Like you can physically hear that ball is sticking to his finger, but yet he's throwing wipeout sliders after wipeout sliders. And the conversation we had the at bat prior was that even umpires are saying that they haven't seen pitches move this way in their entire career. So the game changed. Everybody was noticing that something fishy was going on out there, and baseball knew it because they were able to track data and see that pre-spider tack and then current spider tack numbers for these pitchers had changed. You went from pitchers that might not have been any good to all of a sudden they've got wipeout stuff and they're getting millions and millions of dollars from the results that they got from the spider tack. So the reason why I'm mentioning all of this and going into a glimpse of the past is because when the pitches change so much, the hitters have to change with it. Pitchers are the ones that make the moves that the hitters have to make moves back to. So the pitcher will always have the control of the at bat because they know what pitch they're going to throw, while the hitter is sitting there guessing and hoping that what they're committed to in their mind and the location that they're thinking it's going actually happens, and then they put a good swing on the ball. So the reason why I'm mentioning all of this is because when pitching changes so much, hitting has to change with it. Pitchers know that when they throw at the top of the zone with a lot of spin rate, when that ball is spinning at a good trajectory backwards or upwards, you would say, that if you have a guy that's got a super like under the ball swing, right? So the ball is going up and then the hitter's trying to go under it. And then all you can really do is hit it straight upwards. So the game changed, right? The game really changed. If you remember that one clip of Justin Verlander being like, ground balls don't equal home runs, they don't. But if they're throwing at the top of the zone and you're taking that whole like swing under the ball type swing, you're just going to feed right into what these pitchers want you to do, which is just put the ball in the air at a 90-degree launch angle, and then you're out. So the game changed in the sense of they start throwing at the top of the zone. Hitters have to think about getting down on top of the ball. If you get on top of the ball, then you match that plane and then you can finish outwards, and that's what leads to the home run. So when the Yankees just load their lineup up with a bunch of guys that have home run or bust power, and a lot of them are thinking like under the ball, that's a problem. Now, not every single one of their players does that, but I think that one of the thoughts with the Yankees development system is that they work on launch angles, and these players think that when you create a launch angle, you have to be under the ball. And that is a problem to me. That's a big problem because if you're a young kid coming up and you're thinking that, hey, like dip and get under it leads to home runs, in today's game, you're screwed. You're absolutely screwed. You're right where the pitchers want you to be. The way that the development has changed has significantly put at the forefront of players' minds that it is launch angle and exit velo. And one thing that should be noted is that players do know that after every single game, at least with the Yankees and a few of the other organizations, that depending on the amount of not the amount, the exit velo that you hit in a launch angle, the teams grade you in the minor leagues. So for instance, just an example, if I go up to the plate and I hit a ball that is 65 miles an hour because I got jammed on my hands and I fisted it over the second baseman's head and I got a hit, in my mind I'm like, hey, I got a hit. But in the player development and the analytical department, they look at that as pure luck. So they will mark it down as a bad at bat. So for the remainder of the time, you're going through these at bats and you're knowing that, hey, I'm being judged on if I'm hitting it at least 95 miles an hour plus with a 10 or 12 degree launch angle. That's all they want. That's all they want. So they start putting those thoughts in your head of like, hey, I got to hit this ball at this miles per hour, this launch angle. And what it really makes players do is it makes them overswing and try to hit the absolute shit out of the ball. That's really what it does, is it just makes players think that, hey, I got to go up there and I got to absolutely smoke this ball to get a good grade. Not the whole like, hey, I'm just trying to get hits type thing. I'm trying to get on base. And I see the thought process behind it. I do. I know that the higher that the exit velo, the more opportunities they think that you're going to have base hits. That's why a guy like Judge is just an absolute cheat code, is because he can hit it 130 miles an hour. But in today's game, a lot of guys are just going up there swinging as hard as they can rather than going up there with an approach, a mindset, and an area that they want to try to focus to get a little bit better in. So I'm mentioning all of that because I just think that if you think about some of the Yankees lineups over the past couple of years, they have a lot of really big players that swing hard. And I think that last year's lineup, they had a lot more athletes in it. I mean, they have guys like Jazz Chisholm in there. I mean, Anthony Volpe is an athlete, regardless of what the results are. He's an athlete. Cody Bellinger, Dominguez. You have certain types of players in there that certainly aren't just like that. My cat's going crazy. certainly have players in there that aren't doing the whole like home run or bust type swings. So I'm mentioning all of this just because I think that the Yankees need to focus a little bit outside of just only going after the home run hitters. Sorry, I had to let my cat out. He didn't want to be a part of this anymore. So I do think that it's interesting with the Yankees stuff that they do know all this data on the pitching side, and yet they go out there and they get hitters that certainly don't match what the pitching does to those hitters. So you go out and you know that this guy's throwing X amount of pitches at the top of the zone, and then but we go out and we get a hitter that likes to swing under the zone and pop up, pop up, pop up. Playoffs roll around, those pop-ups just become way more crucial. You're hoping that that guy's gonna hit a home run. A lot of those guys swing and miss a lot. A lot of these pitchers, if you're looking at them, man, these guys are throwing absolute gas. So getting under the ball ain't gonna work in the playoffs. So that's a big thing for me. So I think that another thing that I had written down in my docket was that there was a time when players came to New York and got better, but now they get there and they stall or they at least seem to shrink. I got turbulence with these cats. Okay. Absolute turbulence. These cats are going crazy. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to cut all of this. I think that one thing that people need to know, oh my God. I think that one thing that needs to be noted in all of the things that I'm saying is that majority of these teams do think in the same way, but the way that they bring you to the end result is different. The way that they explain it is different. The thought process behind some of these moves are different. I think that one thing that the Yankees do that a lot of other organizations don't necessarily do, and I can't speak for exact like examples of it, but I do remember working with the Yankees that a lot of the people that were the ones describing these things were like basically like people that have degrees at other colleges that had very slim like experience in playing, and they're really good at like knowing the body and how the body moves and trying to explain it, but there's no I've been there and done it before. So I think that there's a little bit of a disconnect between the players and the person explaining it, because maybe that person can only explain it in like a sports science way and not a, hey, I have been there and done this type way. I think there's different ways to explain it. I mean, the only person that I can think of is a man named Tim Hires, who's the Atlanta Braves head hitting coach, and that guy could explain hitting to anyone in the world, and they would go out and be able to do it. I mean, look at the results that he's got. World Series winner with the Red Sox, World Series winner with the Dodgers, World Series winner with the Rangers, and now he's with the Braves. So I think that I know that Tim Hires interviewed actually for the Yankees job. He turned it down. He was offered it. That would have been the best thing that has ever happened to the New York Yankees right there. It really is, because I do believe that the Yankees are just a few good coaches away from changing everything. They have a lot of guys in place. The player development is extremely unique the way that they have it set up. They just do things a little bit differently, and I think that they do it that way because they want to be able to be like, we did it our way and we did it different, but there's different ways to cook meals, and they just cook the meals a lot differently, and sometimes they burn those meals. Um, Something that I want to like note in this is that I do have some stuff written down. This is what I have written down. The Rays are maybe the clearest example of a small budget, high IQ team that uses data, they develop players, and they have a smart roster, and they don't just do all of that with money. And then I also wrote, if Tampa, with a fraction of the resources, can outsmart and outcompete, what real excuse does a giant market team like the Yankees have? And that's really what it comes down to, is that these small market teams, the Rays, the Cleveland Guardians, these teams that don't have nearly the budget that the Yankees have, they're developing players at an extreme rate. And then ultimately, like I said in the past, those players get traded to these big market teams. So it is interesting to see that majority of these like small market teams develop the players that fall in the laps of the big market teams. I think the big market teams are just able to afford all of the fruits of other teams' labor, and then they just put it in their lineup and they do it. I think that's one of the biggest things with the Yankees and a few other organizations. I'm not mentioning the Dodgers. I think the Red Sox are doing a really good job right now. I think the Rangers did a really good job. Obviously, they're selling off some players, but there's these big market teams that develop these players, and I don't think that that's been a huge thing of the recent part of today's game. I think that you see that a lot of these prospects that are coming up that are bursting on the scenes, majority of these like big prospects that are absolutely like studs are the players that are from the teams that aren't that good. Obviously, you get a high draft pick, but those teams that are in the lower tax or lower market, they're forced to develop the players. The bigger teams, they aren't necessarily forced to develop the players. They can just acquire the players and then hope that some of their development in their players comes to fruition and then they turn to stars. But I think that you see in today's game that teams like the Yankees say that they have all these mega prospects. They don't give them a really good chance to play, and they have eye-popping numbers in some areas, but they get up and they don't play. And I think it's because they're pulling the wool over a lot of people's heads. I think that's just something that you've gotta think about. I mean, some of these teams, they build success among mega budgets, and that's crazy. And so I have written down or have some stuff. I had it in my phone and the pictures that I have, right? Like since the Yankees have won the World Series, the Giants won it in 2010, Cardinals won it in 11, Giants won it in 12, Red Sox 13, Giants 14. So that's 3 World Series for the Giants right there. 15 Royals, 16 Cubs, 17 Astros, 18 Red Sox, 19 Nationals, 20 Dodgers, 21 Braves, 22 Astros, 23 Rangers, 24 Dodgers, 25 Dodgers. And what I'm getting at here is that you're seeing a lot of the same teams pop up on that list. And I think that these teams have figured out that this is the route to go. Now, while some of these teams are figuring out that we're going after our second, third, and fourth World Series in the last X amount of years, the Yankees are just searching for their first. And that is a problem. That's a problem itself, is because the Yankees have to figure out a way to shut the people up. And I'm wondering if the Yankees are going to luck into a World Series just because they're going out and they're buying players. I don't know necessarily if the development side of the Yankees is going to win them World Series. I really don't believe it is. I think they spend too much money and they think about areas that necessarily aren't great. And then they have facilitators that display the information to the players, and it's not good. It's not a beneficial way to get a player to move in the direction that you want them to move. You need to start picking some of these other coaches, some of these other staff members, whatever their title is, out of other organizations, feed them into yours, and be open minded to having a little bit of a change in yours, because the success that they have in the regular season isn't something that gets them through October. That's really what this comes down to, is that they have a really good playoff or regular season formula, hit a lot of home runs, strike out a lot of hitters, make some errors, run the bases bad, and then you get to the playoffs and everything is such under a microscope, and then you sit there and you know that everything that you did wrong or good in the regular season is going to be the reason that you either win games or lose games. I mean, you can't just sit there and know that your team is a terrible base running team and then think that the other team doesn't know that and know that they could steal outs that way or send guys into the game that are halfway hurt, and you've said all season that they're hurt, and these teams know that, and they've been ready for that, and they know that you're a little bit vulnerable to make mistakes because that's what you did all during the regular season. That comes down to the development. But the problem with the development is what I said earlier. A lot of the players that the teams are acquiring aren't natural homegrown players. So they're coming from other places. They're coming in, and you're trying to instill the Yankee way in them, and then they don't know what the Yankee way is because they weren't around. But the Yankee way is, let's just skip a couple corners and throw these guys in the big leagues and hope that they run the bases the right way, they throw to the right bases, and that they just don't do anything stupid out there. That's really what it comes down to. So I think that they don't do a really good job at putting these things in place to make sure that the players that come up through their system know exactly what they need. I think that's why you see some players stall out there. I think that's why you see that the media of Giants get these guys, is because it's just a lot. It's a lot, and you skipped a lot of corners along the way. So all in all, I'm just sitting here saying that I think that baseball has completely evolved. I think that the Yankees have stuck in the past a little bit. I think that there's some stuff that they need to work on. If you have that big of a budget, let's use it, baby. Let's use it. Let's allocate it the right way. I could be like the Elon Musk for the Yankees. What is it? The Department of Government Efficiency. I could be the DOE, Department of Yankee Efficiency, and just go in there and allocate the funds towards the things that matter. I think you're seeing if you see some stuff like I saw Kevin Kiermaier, he posted something saying that he wants to elevate the game of or the outfield game for these players. And then he said his phone's blowing up, right? And to me, that makes complete sense. Like, this is one of the best outfielders in modern baseball in the last 15 years. And he's saying that he knows that he could help develop players, but not every single player that played in the big leagues wants to go back and give back to the game in that fashion, but at least employ them or put a little bit of money in their pocket to have them show up to spring training for a few weeks and try to help these players develop, because you can't just throw people out there that have limited baseball experience, limited success, no way of explaining it other than something that's way too smart for a player to hear. Like, sometimes you got to dumb it down and just give them exactly what you need them to do, and just put a person there that can explain it a little bit better and get inside the minds of a player a little bit better. So let me know what you guys think. I'm certainly thinking that this is a good video to elaborate on a little bit more. There's some hitting stuff. I've thought about maybe breaking down some hitting, breaking down some pitching, talking about it, and just ultimately like trying to let you guys see and feel what it's like to be in the batter's box with some of these pitchers and see what it's like. So let me know what you think in the comments. One thing that I would like to say before I go from my comment would be right here. Be honest. This is what I wrote. Be honest. Did baseball evolve or did the Yankees fall asleep? Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.